無常ミイラニョライニウドジョ
Mortal terms of service.
Today, on this occasion of the Shotsuki Hoyo service, the members of the Southern Alameda County Buddhist Church have reverently come before Amida Buddha in memory of their beloved. With deepest reverence and gratitude for the all-embracing wisdom and compassion of Amida, we affirm the three homages. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I go to the Sangha for guidance. Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. 仏教未所門政府上昇が利欲人少年上映主本業しぐう浄土一生天人知人力縁内公不傷無才道少女三苦名交際集約難大義知恵言名詞根門案閉塞小悪道通達全集門高層上満足いよろじぽ日月主樹期天候音符言一種解放像法世苦毒法上大集中説法四四苦供養一切仏具足種特本元年出上満特異三概要尿物無下地通達未不詳願学営利投資最小損志願脈国家大仙王感動国書天人東鎮妙見ナマンナブナマンナブナマンナブナマンナブナマンナブナマンナブ願にしくどく平等聖祭道本菩提心法上Please join me in 合唱。南無阿弥陀仏。南無阿弥陀仏。南無阿弥陀仏。南無阿弥陀仏。南無阿弥陀仏。南無阿弥陀仏。南無阿弥陀仏。南無阿弥陀仏。南無阿弥陀仏。Okay, good morning, everyone. Today's as you already heard, today's the first day of Dharma school. So I'd like to begin by talking to the Dharma school students. Good morning. So there's a book I would like to introduce you to. This is called Buddha is Our Teacher. Can you see this? And it is a book written by the Bukkyo Dendo Kyokai. And it's got a bunch of like, kind of like things that suggest for you to do. There's a lot of things like be responsible for your own actions, regardless of what others do or don't do around you. As you wash your hands, always keep your heart clean and pure. So there's things like this. Whether or not you're pure of heart depends entirely on you. And these are based on words of the Buddha. And then they give a little bit of explanation here in terms of why we have these as our values. And so today I would like to show you one that I want to talk about today. And it has to do with the Shotsuki Hoyo. So it says here, if you respect your elders, you will grow up to be a wonderful person. If you respect your elders, you will grow up to be a wonderful person. And these are based on the words of Shakyamuni Buddha. So he actually did say this. I would like to expand on that a little bit. When I was a young boy, I used to live with my grandparents, and I didn't realize it until much, much later, way after it was too late. But they taught me a great deal about myself without realizing it. They told me stories about the past that I always paid no mind to until I got much older and started wondering about my past and my upbringing, right? My grandfather was a Buddhist minister as well. And he would talk about Buddhism all the time. It's nonstop. Buddhism, right? And I always thought he was a smart person, but man, he was boring, right? After a while, you get old really fast, his talking subject, right? So I never paid really any attention to him. He liked to go on these walks, right? And in order to stay healthy. So he would go on a osampo, we call it in Japanese. So he asked me to come along with him a few times, right? And I really didn't want to go on these walks with him, but I went along a few times. And then during those times, he would tell me life stories, and he would ask me about my future goals and what I wanted to do with my life and all these kinds of things. And we actually had good conversations. But after a while, he asked me to go one time, and I said, yeah, I don't really want to go today, right? And I said no to him. And then he asked me another time, and I said, oh, he actually doesn't get mad at me if I say no. So I started saying no even more. I said, oh, it's okay. I don't want to go today. And then I said no over again. And after a while, he stopped asking me to go, right? He assumed, he assumed that I wasn't interested in going. So I must have really made him sad for saying that to him in his face. He had a lot of wisdom that he could have shared with me, but I turned it away because I wanted to play or spend my time doing something else. But if you think about it, our grandparents or our ancestors or our parents give us a lot of guidance, right? Our parents can give us a lot of advice and information that we would need later on in life. You must live your life and you will find your interests and strengths in life, but your parents and grandparents are actually guiding you to find these things for yourself. When parents or grandparents lose sight of that, that's a different story. But ideally, your parents, grandparents, and your ancestors have come before you and want you to be happy, right? And so they're trying their best to guide you to understand how to achieve that happiness in life. Amida Buddha is the Buddha who guides us to find peace in our spiritual lives. Amida Buddha is in a sense our ancestor who wants us to be happy. True happiness does not come from material things, right? Like nice clothes or a great big house or a nice fancy car or having all the video games, right, that you want. True happiness comes from finding the love that connects all people together. So, I'd like to share something with you on the screen. Let's see. Oh, I can't, oh my gosh, it doesn't let me share it. Okay, I'm sorry. Anyway, it's a picture of an onenju, okay? It's a picture of an onenju. And then the way that onenju is spelled is O-N-E.
It's working.
Is it working?
Yeah.
Oh, ほんまに? Oh, okay. どこにあったかな? これ.
Onenju.
Oh, great. Fantastic. That's what I wanted to show. Okay, yeah. So one onenju. Okay, one. Okay. So, let's see. The onenju is supposed to represent all of our attachments, okay? And there are 108 of these, okay? 108 beads, okay? This particular one, and the one that you're probably holding is a shortened version, but it's supposed to be originally 108, okay? At the end of the year when we ring the kansho, you do that 108 times, okay? So when we put, and our left hand is supposed to represent, ourselves, okay? And then the right hand is supposed to represent Amida Buddha. So even with our attachments, we are together as one with Amida Buddha in Gassho, okay? That is one understanding that we can have of the posture of Gassho. But I believe there is one more way to look at the onenju. I don't want to confuse you, but there is one more kind of interesting way to look at the onenju. Imagine that one bead is one person. So that's me, that's you, that's your teacher, PE teacher, I don't know, and so on and so forth. And so now imagine that in the vast universe, we all make up one big onenju. Okay? The one thing that connects all of the beads together is the string. So the string we think is not the most important part of the onenju because it doesn't stand out. It's very hard to see actually. But if it were not for the string, there would be no onenju. There would be no interconnection. There would be no union. The string is the union that connects all things together. Amida Buddha's compassion is this string, okay? It's the string that connects all beads together. Amida Buddha's compassion, we easily forget, we easily look over, but it is the one thing that connects all life together. And we must be aware of that string that connects all life together in unity. And that is why we say Namo Amida Butsu, to remind us that we are always connected through the world of great compassion, okay? So with that, I would like to end today's talk. Thank you very much for listening. So how do I end share screen here? Okay, please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sensei. We'll now read the Threefold Refuge. It's on page 4 of the Red Book. Please stay on mute, but follow along and read with me. Difficult is it to receive a human form. Now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the Dharma of the Buddha. Now we hear it. If we do not cross over to the truth in the present life, in what life shall we cross over? Let us with sincerity and true reverence take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. May we together with all sentient beings awaken to the great way of enlightenment and to the unsurpassed intent of Amida Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we together with all sentient beings enter the storehouse of the Dharma, becoming like the wisdom ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we together with all sentient beings become units in true accord, in harmony with all things. The peerless, profound, and wondrous Dharma is rare to encounter, even in many hundreds and thousands of kalpas. Now we are privileged to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of the Tathagata's teaching. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
Okay, so I'd like to continue on. Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. 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 Okay, so as I usually do in my Dharma message when there's Dharma school students, I continue on with this theme that I introduced to the children to then speak a little bit more in depth about the issue. For the Dharma school students, I talked about the importance of respecting our elders as that will build our character to become wonderful people when we grow up. Our parents, grandparents, and ancestors show us the great onenju of oneness or interconnection. The one in onenju is working in our lives. But we can't just stop at the understanding of interconnectedness and oneness. This is Buddhism in general Buddhism, okay? We have to then talk about how this ties into Amida Buddha and Amida Buddha's great compassion. And that is what makes this teaching, specifically Jodo Shinshu, something we need to do more and more as Americans are becoming more familiar with Buddhist concepts, right? As we are growing more
comfortable with Buddhist concepts such as interconnectivity, impermanence, and so on and so forth. Today is the Shotsuki Hoyo, so we are observing the passing of those who went to the Pure Land in the month of September. It's not that we hold emphasis on the month so much, right? That's just a way to kind of organize the names right together. But the important part is taking the time out, in this case, once a month, in order to remember our ancestors and those who came before us. And this is very important in Buddhism. We remember those in the community, not just our immediate family. And this shows us that we are being nurtured through our experiences with other people in our community. Our upbringing, and I'm not just talking about the time we were children, but our upbringing all throughout adulthood as well, is made possible by everyone around us. The people that we love, and yeah, that's correct, the people that we're not so fond of either are also bringing us up and nurturing us, right? So I'd like to do kind of an exercise. Imagine a person you loved in this community who has since passed away. And what do you remember about that person? You can close your eyes and try to remember that person's face and your great relationship with that person. I'll give you a few seconds. Okay, now imagine a person you didn't like too much who has since passed away, okay? You don't have to, we're all on mute, so it's okay. Imagine an interaction that you had with that person, right? Was that person always complaining to you or arguing with you, complaining that you don't cook the chicken teriyaki right or something like that, right? But now think about that person and how they showed you something about yourself. How did that interaction show you something about yourself? I'll give you a few seconds to kind of maybe think about that. Well, maybe after some time you think to yourself, maybe you weren't so kind back to that person, right? Maybe you intentionally did things to make it difficult for them. Maybe you realized how stubborn you can be at times. Or perhaps you realized that the person wasn't being mean to you, but rather was trying to show you something, but didn't really know how to convey it other than to come off a little bit bossy. But really that person was trying to show you that he or she cares about you, right? In some very indirect way, right? So it's possible, right? You never know. Sometimes this is hard to do right away, but as you get more and more involved in thinking about your experiences with that person, these thoughts might pop up into your head. And these things happen to me all the time, right? I feel these things all the time. And then I always start to feel a little bit bad, right? And then I'm like, oh man, maybe I should have been nicer, or at least try to see things from their perspective a little bit more, I think to myself. Both the people we had a great relationship with, but also the people we don't have such a great relationship with, are all part of our upbringing. They are helping to create who we are now. As a matter of fact, in many ways, the people we do not get along with show us the part of ourselves that we don't want to see in a much clearer way. For this reason, they are important people in our lives. And this is partly what is meant by when we talk about interconnectivity. A good way to remember and think about those who came before us who passed away is to think of the significance of incense. Let me show you an example. So try to imagine this, okay? Incense. Okay, in Buddhism, the scent, the issue of scent and fragrance is very important. That's why a lot of Buddhist Hoyo or names, they have what's called ko, the kanji for fragrance, okay? Actually, kaori, my wife's name, it has that character in there as well. Because this topic of scent and fragrance comes up in sutras. So when the Buddha was alive, the way to make offerings to the Buddha was through lighting candles, offering flowers, and also offering incense, right? And also reciting the Buddha's name or the Buddha's teachings, like in chanting. So when we say Namo Amida Butsu, right, that's kind of an offering, right? It's praising the Buddha's qualities. When we chant, we are recalling the Buddha's teachings, and that is why that's also a form of praising or making offerings to the Buddha. So scent and fragrance is in that line. Okay. And we say in Buddhism that the Buddha's wisdom and compassion spreads through the 10 directions, right? As if sweet fragrance permeates the room, right? It spreads slowly out like that. So even if the incense stick burns away, the fragrance remains and leaves behind a sweet fragrance for the rest of the world. In the same way, when someone passes away and this incense stick is completely gone, the work they left behind, their interactions with those who are living, their contributions to the world, the love and kindness they showed to others, our fond memories of them, will all be left behind for future generations. Their fragrance is left for us to smell and sense their working. So even after someone passes away and goes to the pure, they leave behind the fragrance for us. Their physical bodies might not be here, but they are still working on us in this world right now. When you smell your oji-chan or ba-chan's clothes, right? Maybe the cologne or the perfume that they used to use, the smell of their home cooking, right? Ikkini, right? In an instant, all the memories of them come back to us, right? They come back to our minds. We live with them in that instant that we smell their fragrance. And that is why scent, fragrance, smell is very important in Buddhism. It is timeless and unifies us through the generations. It tells us that there's something more to this reality than just our own selves. But I'd like to ask another question. What makes this transition from incense stick to the sweet fragrance? Right? How do we go from this to fragrance? Fire, right? Flame, it's the flame. It's the flame of Amida Buddha's great wisdom and compassion. This is the flame that burns through our blind passions. It is the flame that gets passed on from generation to generation, like connecting incense sticks together. The flame continues to burn through the sticks. And these sticks symbolize our lives of blind passions or attachments. And the flame burns through them, and we leave behind sweet fragrance. Amida Buddha burns through and exhausts our blind passions. Amida changes our blind passions or attachments into that world of wondrous fragrance for the world and for future generations to come. But it was Amida Buddha's flame of compassion that created that initial flame that lighted our hearts. It is Amida Buddha's flame of compassion that is passed on to us and lights our inner hearts. We receive that same mind that Amida Buddha has. We take in the same flame that Amida Buddha has created. In Tendai Buddhism, another major school of Buddhism that dominated Japanese Buddhism during the Heian period, this is like 10th century Japan. There is a major monastery called Enryakuji. It's on Mount Hiei, okay, on Mount Hiei. It's a huge monastery, okay? This is the original place where Shinran Shonin studied and practiced. It is the original place where Honen Shonin studied and practiced. It is the original place where Dogen, the Zen master, right, studied and practiced. Nichiren, right, of the Nichiren sect, that's where he studied and practiced, right? It all started from there, right? But I went there once as a tourist and a visitor to see that place. And in the main hall, they have 2 candles, or I think it was 2 candles, but it's called the eternal candles, okay? Meaning that the flames never went out for how many hundreds of years. And this might not seem like a big deal, right, to some people, but imagine a candle that has been burning continuously for hundreds of years, right? So someone went there and exchanged and continued that light to make sure that it stayed lit. And so not even during the war or the famine, right, did these flames go out. So they continually replenish this with wax and the wick, right? So that's to depict the wisdom of the Buddha that continues eternally. In the same way, Amida Buddha's wisdom continues eternally. It has existed since the beginning of this past, and it will continue to do so forever. So it is that flame of wisdom and compassion that gets passed on to us. It is the mind of wanting to continue to burn all the blind passions of all sentient beings, thus freeing them from the world of suffering. It is the mind that when it gets passed on to us, when we in turn want all humanity and sentient beings to also find true happiness. So in conclusion, please remember the example of the incense that our ancestors leave behind, the sweet fragrance in hopes for us to encounter the Buddha Dharma, or Amida Buddha's wisdom and compassion. The flame that ignites and changes the sticks of blind passions to that of sweet fragrance of the Buddha Dharma is Amida Buddha's great working. With that, I would like to end. Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. では皆さん、こんにちは。これから日本語で、続けさせていただきたいと思います。初めての日本語の本話ですので、私の日本語はそんなに上手ではないので、片言の日本語で、法話を、させていただきたいと思います。先ほど、お香の話をさせていただきました。お香から来る香りという概念というものは仏教では非常に大事に扱われております。これはいろいろな解釈ができますが、その一つは仏法というのはお香の香りのようにあらゆるところに広まるということを象徴するのですね。こうやって自然と徐々に広まっていくということがこの香りという、インセンス、フレグランスですね、の、大事なポイントであるのではないかと思います。この間、非常に面白い文章を読みました。一太郎ご苦労さんという方が、おりまして、このように、書いております。ご飯は1日に3回食べてきて、これを60年間続けてきましたが、お米の味が未だに説明できない。仏法はこのようなものです。南無阿弥陀仏と書いております。面白いですね。お米の味が未だに説明できない。確かにそうですよね。私もお米の味、誰かに聞かれたら、お米ってどんな味してんのかって言われたら、簡単に説明できないですよね。べちゃっとしてる食感、あるいは、噛んでいけばいくほど甘くなるけど、なんていうの、キャンディーを食べているような甘さでもないし、なんやろうね、どのように説明したらいいのか、ちょっと、ピンとこないですね。私たちは、毎週お寺に来て仏法を聴聞していますが、このようなことが、起きませんですかね。法話を聞いて、なるほどなっていうふうに思うけども、本堂から出た途端にその話がさっと頭から、消えてしまいますよね。そして、夫か妻から、今日の話は何だったのかと聞かれたら、何やったかなというふうに思いますよね。そういうことがよくあります。僕にとってでもよくあります。で、なんか夫婦喧嘩の話をしていたことは覚えているけどなとか、そういうようなね、全然関係ないとか、あんまり重要なポイントではなかったところはよく覚えてるんだけど、一番言いたかったところはなかなか頭に入ってこないんですよね。このように、仏法は、いくら聴聞していても、その味わいは、なかなか説明できないものなのです。これはなぜかと言いますと、私たちはただ単に忘れっぽいのではなく、聴聞というものは、難しいものだからだと思います。心を開いて聞くというのはいかに難しいものなのかと思います。親鸞上人は難心の難という、表現をされます。難心の難っていうのは、難っていうのは、難しいという言葉ですね。難。で、心は、信心の心なんですけど、で、その難。つまり、この最も難しいものは、この信心であるということなんですね。この教えというものを、受け入れることがなかなかできないことなんですね。で、親鸞上人が説明に、なられたのは、修行よりもこの聴聞すること、仏法を聞くということが、もっと難しいのであるというふうに、お示しになられました。よくご門徒さんたちから、お聞きしますが、私はボードリーダー、になりたくないと言います。ボードリーダーですね。なぜかと言いますと、自分はいい仏教徒、つまり Good Buddhist ですね。Good Buddhist でないから、 自分はボードリーダーなんかなれないっていうふうに言うんですよね。まあ言い訳かもしれないですけど、まあそのように、説明されるんですね、よく。しかし、このグッドブッディストとはそもそも何なのか、僕にとって未だにちょっとわからないんですね。グッドブッディストは、毎週の日曜礼拝に来て、説教を聞いて、仏教の規則を全部暗記して、周りの人たちに対していつも思いやりがあり、優しくて、優しくしてあげるという人だと思うのなら、それは誰もグッドブッディストに、なっていないはずです。なってないです。このような、グッドブッディストはいません。これが、浄土真宗の考えなんですね。しかしながら、グッドブッディストでないからこそ、弔問をするのです。これが浄土真宗の、信者の、姿勢なのですね。大峰明先生という、有名な先生が、おっしゃったんですけど、その先生がこのような例えを挙げています。例えば、清らかな池があります。で、一瞬見たら、もう本当に透明で下まで、見えるぐらいきれいに、なんていうんですかね、very still water、じっとしてる水なんですね。で、もう透明ありすぎて、もう下の底が見えるぐらい、下の泥が見えるぐらいなんですね。でしかし、そのちょっとぐらい混ぜたら、その水がすぐに汚れてくるんですね。ちょっと混ぜたら、すぐ汚れる。凡夫の心も同じようなものなのです。一瞬きれいに見えても、ちょっとでも、混ぜたらすぐ汚れる。ちょっとでも、悩み始めたら、その心がすぐ、汚れてしまう。そのような、状況がこの凡夫というものなんですね。ですから私たちは一生懸命、お経を暗記しようとしても一生懸命毎朝ちゃんと起きてなんかお経を唱えたりとかそのような、ことをして自分がグッドブッディストになって自分の心を磨いていこう自分の煩悩を消していこうというふうに思ったとしてもそれがやはり無理なんですね。すぐ、惑わされるわけなんですね。それはなぜかと言いますと私たちは煩悩を抱えているからなんです。ですから、この先生が説明しようとしているところは症状のものは自分から来るのではなく他者、外から来るものなのです。でこれが、阿弥陀如来様の知恵と慈悲の働き、知恵と慈悲の世界なのです。それを、気づくことが、大事なんですね。で弔問することによってその、世界、そういう自分以外の、真実の世界というものが開かれてくる、わけなんです。このことを心に、留めながらお念仏を申して、まいりましょう。本日はようこそのお参りでございました。合唱お願いいたします。何万ダウス、何万ダウス、何万ダウス、何万ダウス、何万ダウス、何万ダウス。皆さんありがとうございました。Thank you very much.